Hello and welcome back to Chopping It Up. We are back from our brief hiatus. My apologies for not getting more episodes out, but we're back now. I'm your host, as always, Lucas Parent, and let's get right into it. So, today we're not going to focus really on the news that's been going on in the league. We are going to be looking ahead to tomorrow's trade deadline. For those of you who don't know, I'm a big basketball transactions guy. I'm really involved with that type of stuff, and I really appreciate a good trade deadline. So I'm hoping that the basketball gods, the guys that are working the front offices and all that, really bless us with a good trade deadline this year. We got, about 27 hours at the time I'm recording this. I'm really excited. We had some fireworks last year. It's going to be a lack of sleep for me tonight because I remember last year at the crack of dawn, not even, about like 3 a.m., I believe, the Suns traded for Kevin Durant. Can't miss something like that. I don't think there's going to be any big superstar moves like that this year, but you never know, honestly. So we'll see what happens. So what I've done is I have created a tier list. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There is 6 tiers, and I've divided the NBA teams up into 6 tiers. I'm going to run through them real quick. So we have the tiers of trade deadline teams. First tier is buyers. You have teams that are looking to add assets and propel into contention. The sellers are the teams doing the exact opposite. Traders are teams that are not really buying but not selling either, just swapping pieces. The fire sale, which is just blowing it up completely, getting rid of everything. The inconclusive, those are teams I'm not quite sure what direction they're going to go in. They could go in any direction. And nothing. Those are teams that maybe have one move on the table, but other than that, looking at not much. Yeah. So this is what I think. I don't really have league sources, although I am very active on Twitter. So as I said, obviously a lot of potential for this year's deadline, and I have separated the teams. So I'm going to run through the tiers, and this is, like I said a couple seconds ago, just what I think. So our buyers. I have 7 teams noted for buyers. Boston, Knicks, Philly, OKC, Sacramento, Phoenix, and the Los Angeles Lakers. These are my 7 buyers. Boston. Boston cannot afford to add any player above a mid-level exception. They do have a trade exception worth around $6 million, if I'm not mistaken, if not more. And they have a couple contracts on the bench, namely Jordan Walsh, Sam Hauser, Luke Cornett, and O'Shea Brissett. The player I like for them is Andre Drummond. It almost feels like a foregone conclusion that they will try to add another big or point guard, and I think Drummond is the perfect guy for them. Gets rebounds, hard on the glass, and just a better player than Luke Cornett. No shame to him, but I just think Drummond is a gettable guy at this year's deadline, and I'd like to see him bleeding green. New York. I feel like might be one of the only teams that can challenge Boston, and they do have a better financial situation. They have Evan Fournier's contract, which if they can't get a trade for it this year, they do have a team option, on it next year. So they can't deal it in the offseason as well, but I think now is the time to make a move. I think the move for them is either Jordan Clarkson, Bruce Brown, or Malcolm Brogdon, These guys are all gettable. I think Bruce Brown is probably the worst of the 3. He'll have the lowest price tag, but any of these guys would help this team. Bruce Brown said it himself. He thinks he's a Tibbs-type player, and I agree with him. 3-and-D guy. He can make open shots. He can make layups. He can play great defense, better than the other 2 guys. Brogdon, little less on the 3-and-D scale, but he's probably the best offensive all-around of those. And then Clarkson is just a scoring machine. They just traded depth. They traded quickly for OG Anunoby. This is a team that needs more bench scoring. As much as I love the guy, Dante DiVincenzo is not sustainable for the playoffs. Next, we got Philadelphia. This is my favorite team this year's deadline. Joel Embiid just went hurt. They are 30-19. If they want to stay out of the play-in picture, they're probably going to need around 45 wins. So we're looking at they got to go about 15-18. And so far, they've kind of been stinking it up worse than that. There's a pretty obvious move on the table that I think they should make, and I think it's getting some players from Chicago. Now, they've been mentioned in the Drummond market as well. However, I think the move for them is more of a blockbuster. In my 10-team trade, which you can see on the Lincoln Lions Roar website, I had them getting Kelly Olynyk, Malcolm Brogdon, as well as, with the Bulls, DeMar DeRozan and Alex Caruso. And they're parting ways with Tobias Harris and DeAnthony Melton and Marcus Morris and that. But it's about what you're getting back. DeMar DeRozan could be a stellar second option while Embiid is out, and an even better third option. You know, we see him in the playoffs. He often goes by DeFrozen because he's not the most efficient playoff guy. Now, that's from those years in Toronto where it was him and Kyle Lowry, and he was the first option, if not 1A, 1B with Kyle Lowry. Now he's going to be the third option, and I really like that for him. Additionally, you're getting Alex Caruso. We know Nick Nurse is kind of a psycho when it comes to defense. This team is going to be insane if they have some of these lineups out. There's a lineup I'm envisioning where you have any power forward of your choice, Embiid, and then Robert Covington, Pat Bev, and Alex Caruso. Just absolutely absurd. A lot of teams aren't going to be able to crack that one, especially, let's say, you keep winning, you turn the ship around with Embiid. I really like the way that this looks. Excuse me. And then just the offense too. DeRozan's still good. They will have, if they trade Tobias Harris, they'll have a max contract spot available. I think DeRozan is probably the guy they're going to go get. But, man, I just love the thought of that. And if they keep it afloat, and let's say they get the 3 seed and they're matched up against a young 6 seed like Indiana or an Orlando, that's going to be scary when you have guys like Alex Caruso and Pat Bev in one lineup is scary. Next team, OKC. They have picks for days, plethora of assets. I think the move for them is going to get Nick Claxton, just a good center. They're going to need at least another center. They could get Kelly Olynyk. They need a guy behind Chet Holmgren. Jalen Williams, love the guy, but he's not sustainable. Sacramento, I have them as buyers, but I'm just not quite sure what their direction is. They could get, another wing, another scorer. I think the move for them, if they want to make it, is Mikal Bridges or Jeremy Grant. Both guys on long-term deals. Phoenix, the only trade they have available really is Miles Bridges. Now, we all don't like Miles Bridges, the guy, but as a basketball player, he's been lighting it up. He's averaging about 21-7 this season, and he would be a scary fit next to Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. Lakers, I think it's obvious what's going to happen with them as of now. So far, a day out, nothing has happened, but DeJounte Murray is going to be a Laker in due time. That's pretty explanatory. They could also, maybe there's another guard that pops up, a smaller guard, a Tyus Jones maybe. I don't know. I don't see D'Lo on this team if they decide that they want to get a bigger guard. Next category, we got our sellers, and I'm just going to run down the assets these teams have. Atlanta, they got guys, maybe DeAndre Hunter. Shout out Danielle Hunter, NFL Pro Bowler. Also Murray. Clint Capella could get moved. That'd be an interesting OKC pickup. Sadiq Bey might get moved. Toronto, they got all sorts of guys, but namely Bruce Brown and Jakob Poeltl, and Dennis Schroeder as well. Charlotte, all their veterans are up for grabs. Miles Bridges, you got a big, chunky $30 million expiring contract with Gordon Hayward. They already traded Rozier. They got Ish Smith. Detroit, they already traded some guys, but Bogdanovich is definitely available. Alec Burks is definitely available. I feel like if your name is not Cade Cunningham or Jalen Duren, you're available. Isaiah Stewart as well, another guy I like for a team like OKC that needs a center. Washington, they got a couple guys. Kyle Kuzma, interesting Sacramento fit, ? Interesting OKC fit, ? Perhaps Philly as well. We'll see. Pelicans, I think they're going to sell because I think they're determined to stay under the luxury tax line, even if that means having to deal Herb Jones. They have talked at ends about this, wanting to keep Trey Murphy and Herb Jones, but this town's not big enough for the both of them. Lastly, we have Memphis. Just a bunch of rotation guys. I also could see Marcus Smart getting traded to a contender. So, next categories are traders, and they're going to trade with each other is what I'm hearing. 2 teams, Milwaukee, Dallas, discussing a swap. Grant Williams, Bobby Portis. I honestly don't know which team this benefits, so I'm not quite sure why they do that. All I know is that if Thanasis is on the Mavericks, I hope it gets interesting. Fire sale. These are 3 teams that I just want to see completely blow it up and leave nothing on the roster except like 1 or 2 guys. One of them, first one, the most obvious, is Chicago. It's time to rebuild around Kobe White, although I don't think he's ever going to be like an all-star type guy. He's just a fun player. Levine, maybe you want to deal him to Detroit even though he's lost for the season. Philly, looking to add guys, send them over. Get the picks, get it done. Brooklyn. This team is not contending. I don't know what impression they're under that 20-29 is going to make the playoffs, a breeze when you get matched up against the Celtics in the first round. But man, I'm just passionate about Brooklyn because I think they're one of the stupidest front offices in the league. I'm not a fan of Joe Tsai, but man, Mikal Bridges in a Sacramento uniform would feed families. They have a ton of other guys too. Maybe someone gets frisky, trades for Cam Thomas. We'll see. Nick Claxton is well over there, but Portland, 2 guys, Jeremy Grant, Malcolm Brogdon. They also have guys like Matisse Thybulle. Very interesting to see what they're going to do. Next, inconclusive. These are 5 teams I'm really not sure what they're going to do for one reason or another. First, Indiana, which goes hand in hand with the next team, Orlando. I'd like to see Buddy Hield in an Orlando uniform, as the Pacers have been with, trying to trade him for a long time now. They have a lot of, wings, a lot of shooters, a lot of shooters as well. This is a trade I'd like to see, but outside of that, I really don't know what these teams do. Shout out TJ McConnell for his game last night. Really impressive. Utah, Danny Ainge is Mr. Mystery. I'm not sure what he's going to do. He's looking to acquire draft picks is what my sources tell me. Shout out to my dad, but I'm not sure what the move for them is. If they acquire DeJounte Murray, I'd be a very happy camper as long as it is not at the expense of Chris Dunn. Next, Golden State. I think Golden State wants to be buyers, but they have no way of doing so. The team stinks. Clay stinks. Draymond stinks. They have too many guys making too much money. Chris Paul to Orlando, ? I'd love to see it. I don't like Chris Paul. I don't like how this team is fitting together right now. I watched their game against the Nets, and it was pitiful. Absolutely horrific offense. You got guys like Guy Santos getting fourth quarter minutes. If you're listening to this podcast, ask yourself, do you know who Guy Santos is? Do you even know who Brandon Podziemski is? And why is this guy getting 35 minutes a game? He's good. He's great. But this team should be better as to where a rookie should not be playing 35 minutes. Same thing with Trace Jackson-Davis, except Steve Kerr actually underutilizes him. Bad example. Houston, sorry, I'm upset, but Houston taking our anger out as Steph does on Houston so often. This team is going to be middling in Midland forever. I just don't know what they're going to do. Fred VanVleet is lost until after the All-Star break, most likely. They can trade Jalen Green for Mikal Bridges, but in the end, I really don't know what that solves. They can give Brooklyn's picks back, which I think that would be fun, because I don't like when teams don't have their picks and they suck. Brooklyn did it once, they're going to do it again. Next category, our final category. Nothing. I don't think these teams are going to do anything. If they do, it's going to be something minor. Number 1, Cleveland. They've been hot lately. The only trade on the table for them really is Mike Muscala. I've heard some rumblings about that. Miami, nothing. They already made their trade. They got Terry Rozier. Los Angeles Clippers are looking to vend Bones Highland. He's a good get. He's a guy. Now, if Brooklyn blows it up, maybe they send like a pair of second-round picks to L.A., get Bones Highland running the show. Can you imagine how inefficient that would be, Bones Highland in the offense with Cam Thomas? It'd be fun. Minnesota, rumblings about Tyus Jones, but I don't think it gets done. They don't really have the salaries to do so. Denver, again, just from a salary perspective, it's maximums and minimums with them. Finally, the Spurs. I genuinely don't think the Spurs have any assets that people want outside of like Cedi Osman. Maybe a team wants Devontae Graham to play 5 minutes a game, but I don't see what the point of giving up a pick for that is. So, San Antonio, who knows? Maybe they'll get frisky. Maybe they'll trade Keldon Johnson somewhere. But I'm not expecting them to make any moves. That is all I have for this. A couple dream trades I'm thinking of. Clarkson in New York. DeMar to Philly. Hope those happen. Hope we have a great deadline tomorrow. I'll be on my phone all day on Twitter looking at these trades. Wojnarowski bless me up. Thank you guys for listening, and I'll catch you next time on Chopping It Up.